Hi, Bob Coates here, fellow PPA member. I saw that there were some folks having some trouble with deciding whether to or how to do presentations for the MIR. So I thought I'd throw an idea out to show you a few ways that I work to put mine together. So the first thing I do is Command or Control N for to open up a new file, and I'm in Photoshop, and the new file that I want to do is the width is 1920 and the height is 1080 pixels. So that's the maximum size, either horizontal or vertical, that you can have when you enter MIR. If you'll notice, this turned out to be a nice neutral gray. Why did I pick a neutral gray for my background color? I'll show you that in just a second. So the first thing I do once I have that up there, then I'm going to go ahead and go grab an image. So the easiest way is just to click on your layer, drag it over, hover over the tab, and then move into the center. And then if you want to be centered right away, hold down the Shift key and let go. Whoa, that image is really big for that board. Okay, so we're going to take care of that. Command or Control T. So we're going to transform that image. Where are my bounding handles? Oh man, Command 0. And that will always show you your bounding handles. And then we can go ahead, and if we hold down the Option key, it will move to the center. So all we want to do is get this down to be the right amount of size on the top and bottom for this particular image. And that looks like it's going to be about right. How much space do you want to leave around your image? For me, I don't usually like to leave a lot of space around because then it feels like the you're kind of hiding that you don't have enough quality in the image to use the amount of space that you have. So once I find that my image is there, then I'm going to go ahead and use the Move tool, just slide that over into position so we're approximately on three sides, looking good. I'm going to hit the Command or Control plus key to come up a little bit. And okay, so am I going to leave all this space over here? No. Now, the one difference would be if this was an artist image, this might be a place where you put your reference images so that the judges would know what your piece is, where you started versus where your final image goes. So that's just a heads up. And by the way, since we're right there and we just talked about that, I'm going to go here to the bottom layer. I'm going to activate the Marquee tool, and I'm going to pull over to here. So that would be about the ballpark for where my image would be. And then I'm going to hit a Command or Control J. And what I'm doing here is I'm setting up that if you're doing an artist image, you might want to separate your image from your reference images. So if you're separating your reference images, an easy way to do that is go down to the bottom of your menu, of your layers menu, and go to the FX menu. And once you open up the FX menu, you can add a drop shadow. And look at that. We've just separated our image from where we might hang out there. This is called a layer style. And then you could put your, all your reference images over in a space like that. Okay, so we're not doing that for this particular image, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. And our next move would be, again, the Marquee tool. Kind of bring it around there, give it a nice even space all the way around, and then go to Image and Crop. All right, so now we are image. We know that we're within the proper parameters for size because you can't have an image that's taller than 1080 or wider than 1920. So 1080 is our number for this one. So this is where we end up with this horizontal image. All right, so I'm going to hit Command or Control D to deselect there. And just like before, what I'm going to do is going to Command click on the image. Look at that. It makes a selection for us. And then I'm going to go back down. I'm going to be on that background. And from that background, Command or Control J. And I'm going to, I don't see anything there. Command or Control T. There's our image. And I'm going to hold down the Option key and pull that apart. And basically, I'm setting up a secondary stroke way. possibly. So let's see what we have there. Let's say, okay, that's good. So I'm going to accept that transformation, Command J. I can't see it, so I go down to the FX menu and then go ahead and add a stroke. So if you go here and go to stroke, you get your stroke area. So your stroke remembers the last color that you were in. So we have a color of gray, and boy, that looks pretty bright. So there's a couple different ways to take care of that. I always suggest that you keep your stroke at an opacity of 100%. I've many times seen a stroke that was on an image, and in order to control the tone and color, the opacity was lowered. That allows the details from the image underneath to sneak in there, and that doesn't look quite finished. Another thing to watch when you're doing your stroke is you want to use the inside and not the outside. Because when you have the outside, if you look here, you end up with a curved corner. And for me, that doesn't feel quite as finished. So if you choose the position of inside, then you end up with a nice square corner. All right, so we're looking good. We've got a color on there that's, are we finished? By no stretch are we finished. I'm just going to say okay for now. And then I'm going to take a HUe Saturation layer and stick it in between the image and the backgrounds. And look what we can do there. Now we can lower it all the way down to black. We can make it all the way to white. Oh man, that's so cool. So now if you're doing a black and white image or your black or white or gray presentation, here's your complete control for just dialing in exactly what you want to do. Now, why do you want to really dial in? So many times you'll see people who have complete black presentations. And if you look, with this being a black presentation, do you see how this looks really gray? It kind of looks kind of muddyish. Doesn't feel like it has enough contrast for that night sky that's going off there. So watch what happens when we go back there and we increase the lightness just a little bit and end up with a dark gray. So now that we have a dark gray, maybe even go a little bit lighter, still dark gray, but look, now this image appears to be darker. Remember that your tones and colors next to other tones and colors affect each other. So that's something just to think about and be aware of. All right, so now that we've done that, what if you wanted to have a color back there? Well, all the way down, again, back into the HUe Saturation thing, and there's a little button here called Colorize. So once you add the Colorize, boom, you have color available to you. And what controls do you have of color? You can make it any hue that you want from one side to the other. And you can add more saturation or less saturation or dial. So you can dial in whatever you want. And then even in addition to that, then you can dial in how much lightness and how much darkness. So the idea is with having this HUe saturation between your image and your presentation, man, it gets really easy to go in and tweak and get things to be just the way you want them. And you don't have to live with them. So I always save this out as a PSD file so that I can review it later on and can get back to it and make any changes that I want. Okay, so we've got our idea there. And do I want to do this in color? I don't know. If I do it, I'll just add a little bit of blue, make it a little bit of blue, make it nice and dark. Bring that saturation up just a little bit so you can see how we can tweak everything in there. You notice that my stroke line is changing all the time. Of course, it's changing all the time because I'm changing the tones up above it. So once we've dialed in kind of the color that we want, maybe a little bit darker, so I'm going to bring that. So you see how easy it is to just really get in there and tweak your colors and tones. So let's go back to our stroke. And also I see on this layer, I'm going to hit a Command T because I feel like I don't have enough space in between here versus what's showing over there. So I'll hold down the Shift key, open this up just a little bit, open that up just a tiny bit. So now we have a nicer thing. Accept the transformation by hitting the Return key. Go back to the stroke. in the FX menu by double clicking on it. And once I'm in there, I can increase the size or change the color. Now, in this particular case, I'm just changing the tone by making it a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter. What happens if I make it white? All right. So normal, let's go see. We're not in the stroke. All right, so we're in the stroke neighborhood. Our size is pretty small. Remember that it's being affected by the HUe saturation that's up above. Since we've got a little bit of a blue background, that's kind of coming through. So that's okay for me. I'm just going to say okay. And there we go. That could be a finish. So we have an offset stroke from the image. If you want to add a little more depth into it, now, are these colors perfect? Oh, heck no. I'm going to have the opportunity to go back and change them. I'm just showing you how to put the pieces in place. So the first thing we want to make sure, or the last thing we want to make sure is, number one, is our image directly in the center of the board. Yep, that's there, now there. I'm also going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to go ahead and move that a little bit so that it exactly in the middle of the board. There it is there. Needs to go up there. Yep, now that's going to snap out there. So now I know that my space in between my image and my extra stroke out here is going to be there. So one more thing that I want to do is, I think that's, now that I'm looking at that stroke, I'm like, you know what? That's a little bit too big. I'm going to change it to 3 pixels. There we go. Good. Again, the idea is to add some separation, but not take away attention from your image. The other place that we can add a stroke to add some, some differences there, again, highlight your image, go down to the FX menu, go down to stroke. There we go. Oh, that's up on top. So we have to totally treat this little bad boy different because that's above the HUe saturation layer, which is perfectly fine. So now we can go into the color, bring that tone way down, way down. We may need to go up into the blues a little bit if we want that to match. So we can get over there. Ooh, that's too bright. So you can see how you can change the colors and the tones and the brightness just by moving around within your menus in there. So we'll work our way down, 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 a little brighter, a little darker. So you get the idea. You can go in and tweak that however you'd like. Once you've accepted it, say okay. Then we could go with just that single stroke, and that's a perfectly fine presentation as well. Again, separate your image from your board, but don't have that separation be. Let's go take a look. I've seen some presentations that have this much stroke. That's huge, and that takes away. Also, if your color is off. So anyway, you get the idea. So I'm going to cancel out of that. Get back to there. So you can choose to leave this one on or off by turning on or off the eyeball before you go. So that's fine. How else can we add a little bit more depth and dimension? Well, we could go to our image itself, go back to the effects menu, and then go to an inner shadow. So with an inner shadow, what you want to see is when you preview it and you turn it on and off, see, it's almost like it isn't there. The size is really big, so I'm going to bring that down. The distance is really far, so I'm going to bring that down. Do you know that when you have your drop shadows and inner shadows, you can move them around by clicking and dragging on your image? And then we get there. We're just going to tuck it in there just a little bit, and mostly that's showing right down here. And again, I'm going to lower the opacity on that just a little bit more. The idea behind that inner shadow is that when you turn it on and off, it's like, oh, there was an inner shadow there, but it does affect. So what it does is it lifts and separates that the inner board there up above off the image. So if we say okay there, again, do not hit that really heavy, or you're going to be like, oh, that inner shadow is very distracting. So same idea. So once we have our image all set up there, we're looking good. We decided that we want the double stroke, and we can go ahead and sharpen this image for finals, making sure that we're saving it in sRGB or Adobe 1998, one of those two color spaces. Reconfirm what your size is on your image. Shift Command I allows you to look in there. Yep, 1080 is our highest, is our widest, or our highest point there. So the height is 1080, so we know we're good there. And then let the width fall to wherever it does. So when you're doing a vertical image, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to put that vertical image in. It's going to fit within that 1080 border, have your little space around it, and then you'll crop in like that. I certainly hope some of these ideas were helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can always shoot me an email, bob@bcphotography.com. And good luck as you work on getting your master's or getting those Imaging Excellence IEs toward that Imaging Excellence Award and Imaging Excellence bars. Good luck to you. Bye-bye.